So yeah, the sun squares Saturn. This is definitely a restrictive day. The sun is your vitality. Saturn is what keeps you um pinned
Grounded.
down or
Mm.
grounded would be another way to describe that. Not a good day to set priorities, and it's also a good day to make sure that you don't pick fights with other people and try to. The agitation might be coming from within, and so if when you're with other people, if you express that, it could come back at you. It could bring up barriers that weren't really ever intended. And those could have been like self-proclaiming, prophecies that you put out into the world yourself. Try to hold back on those because they may not be what everybody else is thinking. It could be just more of an internal thing.
Yeah, yeah. That's something I never thought of. But yeah, being hard on yourself with the sun and Saturn. Yeah, I always kind of think of it as more kind of depressive, like, you've had that fun time, you just had that Venus Uranus, and Jupiter was amped up with the North Node, and it's just like, yeah. And then you had all that action with Mars and Pluto. It's a lot of stress, and then, it all kind of like all that tension, all that stuff moves, and then it's just kind of like, back to reality. And not that all those things were necessarily fun, particularly that T square, but this is kind of like once all that pressure's off, it's kind of like, okay, yep, okay, what fell by the wayside while all that was going on? What needs to be picked up and dealt with again? This is just the normal everyday stuff you got to deal with: responsibilities, limitations, restrictions, delays. Saturn is just the grind. And, that can be sometimes that's like, yep, well, that's just part of life. You got to do it. Da, da, da. This is, it can be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah. And it is a square, so it's tension. It's going to cause action. And that's you want that action to be more positive than not. And
Yeah.
so if you are aware of it ahead of time, use it to create barriers. Use it if you're building a wall. I mean, the moon mansion it gives you the energy for a repair of buildings and barriers and that type of thing. So this might be a good day to positively use that for erecting, a structure of some sort. Be a more positive way to use that type of energy because that's what I'm trying to do is it helpful, yes, to know where Mars and Saturn and Pluto are. But I think if you can figure out a way to use those energies that have a lot of drive and a lot of energy associated with them, if you can use them in a more positive way, you can acknowledge that the planets are presenting their energy. You just want to do it in a positive way. That's where free will comes from. So that's why I'm trying to always think of the positive way to spin these things because it can be a lot of negative energy and the tensions and the squares do create, that action that the planets are trying to get us to do. And if we just constantly try to focus on what would be a how can we use this available energy because it's sitting in our hands. We can't just sit there with this glowing ball in our hands. We have to release it into the world some way. And if you can get ahead of it and say, oh, okay, this is a good day to like build the four corners of this building, then do that. I mean that's what Mars is and Saturn are asking you to do, and with the sun, it just is asking you to use these things, and most people have them available in a positive way. There are certain individuals that use these energies in a negative way, and that's on them. But if you know them ahead of time, they don't hurt you as badly if you can manifest them into a more positive way, is what I'm trying to say.
With this responsibility and duties and your obligations, if you're not, one way to look at this is you could just knuckle down and do it, because if you don't, it may actually cause issues. Maybe somebody else is going to be the authority, kind of demanding to know why hasn't this been done. So yeah, it's just one of those days. You just got to kind of knuckle down, do the work.
This could also be with this, the Sun square Saturn is also duties with older people.
Could be, yeah.
Might not want to do them, but the universe is asking you to. But it's good to do them.
Mhm.
You'll feel better afterwards, mostly.